I'm criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga, and I'm going to talk about criminal vehicular homicide, especially those cases where there is a search warrant for someone's blood or urine. So this is how that'll work. So imagine that there is a car accident and law enforcement gets to the scene and they believe that the driver that caused the accident was either impaired by alcohol or drugs. And let's say that driver themselves was injured as well, and so they're in the back of an ambulance or being attended to by medical personnel, or they have to get cut out of the car or something. In other words, they're pretty hurt, and law enforcement isn't going to be able to give them field sobriety tests because they're too injured to do any of that stuff. If law enforcement suspects that the driver is impaired by drugs or alcohol, they can apply to a judge to get a search warrant. A search warrant, if the police get it, will either let the police have someone take the blood out of that person at the hospital or a urine test, or law enforcement will try to get the hospital records from the blood that the hospital naturally draws out of somebody when they're providing emergency medical services. So even if police don't get to draw their own blood, they might try to get your hospital records and show that the blood that hospital staff had to draw to provide medical services to you had blood or had drugs or alcohol in it. And I recently had a case where that happened. There was a driver that went around a curve and went into oncoming traffic, and unfortunately the driver had seriously injured one occupant and killed another occupant of the car that the driver hit head on. Law enforcement didn't see any signs of alcohol impairment at the scene, but couldn't imagine how else the accident could have happened, so they applied for and received a search warrant. Law enforcement then used that search warrant to go get the medical records from the hospital where our client was treated, and in those medical records it showed a blood alcohol content well over the legal limit. What we had to do there is any defense attorney's job is to determine whether or not there are any constitutional violations here. In this case, an illegal or unconstitutional search warrant for lack of probable cause. That's one of the challenges that can exist in cases, and unfortunately this was one of the worst search warrants I ever saw in a case, where there just simply, in my view, was not probable cause for the judge to even issue a search warrant. Despite the lack of probable cause, some judges, unfortunately, will just always issue search warrants, almost to the point of rubber stamping them, unfortunately. There are many good judges that won't do that really do take time to determine whether there's probable cause, but in this case, the judge that issued the search warrant really just disregarded their duties to make sure that there was probable cause. So, as any defense lawyer's duty is, we made an attack in what's called a suppression hearing, arguing that the search warrant was invalid for lack of probable cause. The judge that heard the case, which is a different judge that issued the search warrant, agreed. And the result is that we got the blood test thrown out of evidence, those results. Law enforcement tried to come back around and get another search warrant with the prosecutor, but we defeated that effort as well. And as a result, our client will not have a conviction for criminal vehicular homicide. Our client also avoided doing any jail at all. Now, I know that there are going to be people that are basically thinking, "You horrible person, how dare you get this drunk driver out of trouble or get them out of trouble for a death that was caused." There are many other good things that our client did do, and no matter if the case gets thrown back or not, unfortunately, of course, nothing's going to bring the victim back. And no punishment would ever be enough for the family members of the victim that had that. And we are not advocating drunk driving whatsoever. Some people just flat out cannot or will not wrap their mind around the concept that under our Constitution, if someone's constitutional rights are violated and there is an illegal search or there is a search warrant without probable cause, the remedy is that the evidence is what's called suppressed or kept out. Some people just simply cannot wrap their mind around it and get very angry about it. Look, I'm never going to be able to change their minds, but it is the duty of a defense lawyer, and then ultimately it is the duty of a judge who swears to uphold the Constitution. It's also the duty of the police and prosecutors who also swear to uphold the Constitution to abide by our constitutional laws. That's what America's made about. So I know people are not going to like that result, some people, but if the proper protocol is followed, and if there is probable cause, and if law enforcement and prosecutors follow the constitutional rules that they must follow, these results won't happen. But it is the job of everybody involved in the justice system to make sure that the Constitution is honored. So it's important to have a lawyer that is well aware of how to make constitutional challenges and challenges to search warrants, and really will look at every facet of a criminal vehicular homicide case. The good news for those of you that care about it is that our client did go through 1 year of treatment inpatient and has remained alcohol-free and law-abiding, and has made amends in other ways in the case. So hopefully we've got a lifelong reform there where this will not happen. There are many other pieces to this client's story and in this client's background that I think sheds some other light on why they were struggling with alcohol. It's not an excuse for things, but it does provide some perspective that isn't the purpose of this video. But the issue is that there are legitimate challenges that need to be looked at, and even in those tough cases where some people may get uncomfortable or flat out dislike the results, the Constitution needs to be honored, and a good lawyer will look at all the constitutional issues in a case, including those cases where there's criminal vehicular homicide. If you have any questions about criminal vehicular homicide or about search warrants, or you'd like to see other video topics, you can let me know, and you can also subscribe to my channel. I'm criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga. You can call me at 612-339-5844 or find me at www.arrestedmn.com.